Well, welcome back to the channel, and in this video it's an in-session piece of me putting my wits against the carp and seeing if I can catch a few. We're on the lovely Dawford Pool in Shropshire. This is a great start. Conditions look bang on for it, so there's a good chance that we'll be in for a few fish. Let's get this one back and let's get into the video. So as I mentioned, I'm at Dawford Pool in Shropshire, which is run by Ed Matthews. Now this lake's not the biggest lake in the world, but it's ideal for this type of video. So I've got some 10-foot retractable rods from Trakker. So they're the Propel R 10-foot 3-pound test curve. Now I did a video not so long ago for Trakker with 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏 on the whole Propel rod range, about how they can cast, and in that video, if you've watched it, you'll remember me saying that the 10-foots were my favourite. So I've come down to Dawford to put them through the paces. I got here this morning, the first rod I put out has done me that little fish, but the conditions look right, so hopefully we will get a few. So I've not actually been here long. Oh. Is that on? Oh, that was a hell of a liner. The beep, and when I've sort of looked from around the camera, the rod tip's just like straightened itself. Hopefully that would go off, that would be nice. So I've not been here long. Based on that, I've clearly found the fish, but I've come into the car park peg, fished to a spot I know, which I'll show you in a minute, and that's done me a fish quite quickly. The downside of that is I haven't actually walked around the lake yet to see if any other things present themselves to me, because there is some nice little spots on this venue for stalking. With this lake, I found, because I have fished it a lot, you've got to get your spots in place, your bait and your rig in place before they get onto you, because if you fish to them, they'll spook off and they just won't be interested. So I've clearly found a spot, because that was a vicious liner then. Plus I've had one, so I don't think there's a reason to move. But what we will do, I'm going to have a look around the lake just in case I see a little stalking opportunity. Because I'm using the 10-foot retractables, I can get one out of the bag, set that up, and I can move around the lake really easily. But I do think while I have my brew, considering that was a vicious liner, we might be able to get a take on film. Only because I know this lake well, and normally when you get a liner, they're coming on top of you, and I am fishing fluoro, so I know I'm pinned to the bottom. So if I'm getting a liner, I'm pretty convinced they're feeding on the spot. So let's turn the camera around. Well, I was just moving the camera to hopefully try and get a run on film, and I've put the bait boat there because I was gonna move this right-hander and place it under the overhang on the right-hand side, and as you saw, it's gone off. And do you know what, there's a saying I heard recently that I changed. It was actually on a drum and bass radio station, and I changed the saying to fit my own needs, and it says something about life is too short, and I've changed it to life is too short and fishing is too good to talk over it. So with that in mind, I'm just going to concentrate on landing this fish and say no more. Yes! Now this one definitely isn't the biggest fish in the pond, but I reckon he's one of the prettiest. Look at that apple slice linear line. Look how dark he is. Yeah, that is lovely. So that's fish number 2. I did say the conditions look good. I've got a feeling this won't be the last either. Let's just hope they get a little bit bigger. Now I'm using the manila pellet, really soaked as well. So if you look, it's almost, the way it's soaked is you can almost mould it into a ball. And I just think that keeps the fish on your spot a little bit more, rather than them coming over and as they feed the pellet going everywhere. I think with a bit more of a clump, it just keeps them preoccupied a bit more. It's clearly working, but again, it's just the sticky manila pellet. This is the 4mm actually, and then I just use the manila liquid over the top of it. And you don't have to keep it soaking for long for it to get this consistency. Just put the liquid in, give it a stir, maybe 20 odd minutes or so. It all depends on the volume of liquid you put in, but I like to use a lot of liquid. So that rod's back on its spot. To prep a little bit more bait now. Move this right hander. And there we go. Perfect. Right, now that left one's back on its spot, I'm going to move this right hander because it's not a million miles away from the left hander, which is doing fish, and they can be a bit cagey here. So I'm going to bring this in and move it away from that spot, because I've just got a feeling if they're starting to feel pressured, they might shy off the area. And because I've had two in quick succession, I think the less pressure over there, the better. So I'm going to move this one to the right hand side of the island, so just where you see the right side of the island there, where the overhang comes off. About a foot off the overhang, it drops down. It's quite shallow, it's about 3 foot there, and then it drops again to 4.5, almost 5 foot just off the end. So I think I'm going to move this one there just to take the pressure off that area a little bit. And that is right on the money. There we go. It's a different spot. As I said, I just feel that this left-hander might do 1 or 2 more fish. And to get a 2 fish hit like that on here it's not really the done thing. So I've moved this out the way just so they get a little bit less pressure and it's not that obvious that I'm fishing for them. This tractor's the bane of my life at the moment, going round. Now, I've had 2 fish on these rods so far, and I'm quietly impressed because when Trakker sent these over to me, I did have reservations about bringing to a venue like this, because on smaller venues with loads of margin features where it's quite shallow, so when you get the fish on the rod tip, there's normally still a lot of fight in them and they can run left and right and things like that. And with a stiffer blank, that can improve hook pulls, to be honest, under the tip. So the fact that I thought these were powerful for casting and were designed really to hit those longer distances, I was a little bit concerned about taking to a venue like this, because venues like this, for me, and the reason I fish 10-foot rods is because they're a little bit softer, they're smaller, and you just get to enjoy that fish play in action better. And I must admit, those reservations have now gone. Despite them being designed for powerful casting with a 1K Tory carbon blank, a 1K carbon reel seat, the shrink handle at the end with the flared end, which is obviously to grab for casting distances, 50mm butt ring, 20mm anti-frat tip guide. You know, that is everything you could want from a casting rod. But then again, the play in action, I mean, I've not had the biggest fish in the world, I've had 2 smaller fish in the world, but it was still enjoyable. There was a nice bend in the rod, you could feel which way the fish was going to go, and it was just eradicated any sort of reservations I had about the fish playing action on these blanks. Now, if you go over to the Trakker website, you'll find more information on these rods. So the Propel R's come in 10 foot and they come in test curves £3 and 3.5. These are the £3 test curve ones, and they come in at a price of £269.99. And based on the technologies of these rods and now the playing action which I've experienced for myself, I think they're definitely worth that price point. It's got really warm now, so I've had a walk around the lake and I've seen some fish just behind this island. They were really difficult to spot at first, to be fair, but they plumed up and there was clearly several fish there. So I've run back, got the rods, or even the rod even, and it just makes it so convenient with these little 10-foot retractables, because you can just pick it up, almost tackle it down so it's shorter, and then come through into like a cubby hole like this. Can you imagine the ag trying to get a 12-foot rod through this? And then obviously if I get one, playing a fish on a 12-foot rod in these little like cubby holes and like stalking spots, it's just not the one. These Propel R's are almost designed for this type of fishing, because this really is a bit of me. But I do want to catch one, so I'm a bit conscious that my vocal will spook them, because you can see him going past rod tip. I'll try and get one on camera. Well, I did say if a situation presented itself, I would take it, and that is just rewards. The weather has just completely changed. The frogs are vocal, you can probably hear the birds vocal, the sun's come really high. The breeze has gone, the lake's really flat now, so it makes it easy to spot the carp. But let's get this one back because there's still a few there. Yes, yes, get in. Now, if you haven't used retractable rods before, there's a few do's and don'ts, believe it or not. So what you kind of want to do is when you escort it around the lake and you're looking for things, you want it at its shortest possible length. So obviously you'd bring the retractable bit down, and then there's less rod and line to get caught on brambles and things like that. But the don'ts is when your hook or your rig is on your eye, you don't want to stretch it out while it's hooked up, because what will happen is that the tip will bend at an unnatural action, and literally, if you can imagine, it's just going to come back on itself like that and it can damage the tip. So you can either unhook it, let some line out and then extend it. But what I tend to do is I'll loosen the clutch as loose as possible like that, and then I can just extend the rod out. And that's why, especially on this venue and this type of stalking scenario, I don't think there's a better type of rod with a telescopic butt for stalking, because I'll just bring that back down again and tighten up. So at its shortest length, you're going to be walking through brambles, you're going to have the rod pointed towards you, and that's literally going to be where you aim. And you don't want to walk into any brambles like that. So what you can do, you can go full stealth mode, and as you get to the lake, as you get to like the lake side, you just loosen the clutch up like that. Just extend it ever so slowly, then unhook your rig, and there you go, and you're good to go. But anyway, this is like mid-lake, I've had a short stop, but I'm going to go in this corner now, just see if we can get one more stalking, and then we'll go back to the peg, get some new rigs done, and yeah, hopefully see if we can grab another bite. Now, I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up, but centre of the camera, if you can see it, is a fish known as the white whale. Now that's a fish that I was lucky enough to catch a couple of weeks ago, and that's the fish that kind of gives them away. And hopefully the camera's picking that up, because I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fish. And that white whale that I pointed out then, he was actually over behind the island just before I caught that fish. So they've clearly made their way down here. I'm not convinced the camera's picking that up because I can only see them on the Polaroids, but I'm gonna move around the bank a little bit and just see if I can get a better view from them. Oh, there is just so many fish here, but the light's in the wrong position. I can't get any decent footage of them. It's black with them. Oh, nearly went in then. But I can't fish for them, I can't land them in this. I might be able to get in that corner there. Yeah, let me try and lower a rig in that corner there. This has got to be one of the most exciting type of fishing, where you find a ruck load of fish and you just put in a fresh hook bait on, and you're literally going to discreetly drop this amongst them, and it's that anticipation of what could be. So let's a fresh hook bait on. I'm just going to flick it. I'm going to flick not right on them because they spook really easily, so I'm just going to flick it just past them and then bring the rod back, slowly drop it within I don't know, within a foot from them. Don't want it too close. Well, I do think that I've been blown. I think the fish have heard me trying to do a vocal and they've done the off, because when you're stalking, trying to film it and stalk at the same time, it's not really the done thing. You're fighting a losing battle. Plus, it's going cloudy now. This is the last of the sunshine. There's a ripple on the water and I just can't see the fish anymore. And the whole idea of stalking is you're hunting your prey, so you want to be able to see them, see what they're doing and figure out how to snare one. And the fact that I just can't see them anymore anywhere, it would indicate they've done the off. I might as well go back to the peg and do some bits there. Now, rig-wise, I'm not going to win any awards for this, because the hardest thing about this rig is actually putting the kettle on just to steam the shrink tube. It's 6 inches, which is quite short for my type of fishing, but over time of fishing this venue, it's done me proud. This, it is a little bit silty, and I don't want my hook bait on top of the silt, because the way they feed in here is the head's in the silt. So if you can imagine if the head's down and that probably up to where their eyes are, rummaging around in that silt, if my hook bait is sitting on top of that silt, it's going to be past the head. They're used to feeding in the silt and grubbing around, so that's exactly where I want my hook bait. So as this sort of drops in from the boat or casting it, I can feather it down, it'll sink just into the silt like that. Bait wise, as I mentioned, it's Manila Active wafter on it. That's actually a maggot needle. And the reason I use a maggot needle there, I use it same on my pop-ups or my hook baits, is because it's so thin, the hook bait doesn't really slide around on the hair. It's quite tight, whereas if I was to use a wider needle, sometimes I've noticed that hook bait will slide up and down the hair, which I don't know if it makes any difference, but I just don't like it. So if I don't like it, I'm not going to cast it out. But then on the anti-tangle sleeve, that's when I'll use the thicker needle, because it needs to be a bit thicker just to sometimes pull the anti-tangle sleeve over that bit and sometimes over the knot. And that is it. It's a curved shank hook. The hair's reasonably tight to the hook. And that's it. And I drop that out, and that sits just into the silt, not too far down, but just into like the softer stuff which they're used to grubbing in. And it's nice and short, which means they're going to hit the lead a lot quicker. And I think that's why it's converting a lot of my runs into fish. Right, so I've just got the rods back out after walking around the island, because I did actually see some fish over there earlier on what is now my right hand side of the island, and that's kind of where I've moved my right hander to. So I suppose that's a little bit of confidence, that's given it a bit of a chance to go off. And then the left hand has gone back over the overhang on the left hand side. But I'm just getting all rigs and bits ready for the evening, because I think we've all been there, haven't we? You get a fish in the night sometimes, you get it in the net, you put it back and you think, I just want to get my head down. It's cold, you know, I just want to get in my bag and warm myself up. And I only do that if I've got nothing prepped. So that will not be the case on this session. I'm going to have a tidy up. Rigs are all ready now. Make a brew and have some food. So as you can see, the ducks have located my right hand spot. I'm not that bothered with regard to them picking up my hook bait, because my hook bait is in the silt, so they're not going to get to the hook bait. It's just the freebies and the potential liners. I don't want that giving me false indications. If I'm wrapped up in my bag and I'm getting single beeps at 1, 2 in the morning, I want to know it's a carp, not a bird. So I've moved the rod over to the left hand side of the island, away from the wildlife, so hopefully if I do get that single beep or any indication during the night, I can be at attention rather than thinking, oh, could it be a bird, could it be a carp? I think that explains the fight a little bit, because I thought it felt heavy but sort of had the fight of a small fish, and that's probably why he shaped a bit like a football. But again, oh look at that, get your dorsal up, mega fish. So that's number 3, again from the left hander. That's done all the fish so far, so I think maybe it did pay to bring that other rod away from it for a while, just so they didn't feel pressured. Because 3 fish from the same spot in the same day is pretty good going on Dawford. Right. Well, I was literally just about to get ready for bed. I was just charging some mics and bit, and then it roared off. So let's get this back, and I will wish you good night and see you in the morning. Now, I was up at first light hoping to see that first morning sign of any activity, and as I was scanning the water, the left-hander, as if on cue, went off again and resulted in this lovely slate grey looking mirror. So I had to get this fish back pretty sharpish before the other anglers turned up, and that is why you find me now at home, all packed up and ready to have a wash. So if you enjoyed the video and it's been nice watching me catch a few for a change, then please click on the thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you've not done so already, and click that bell for notifications of any future videos coming up from CARPology.